Okay, good morning. Today we are working on CO27. I can use rates and unit rates to compare to numbers or quantities. So we're going to continue with the ratios that we were talking about yesterday in objectives CO27 or CO26. We're going to take it a step farther today. So let's look at what this means. The rate, who remembers what a rate is? Ooh, so who remembers? We haven't defined a rate yet.
Yeah.
What it was a ratio. So yesterday we talked about the ratio. What's a ratio, Jillian?
The number like 3 to 4. So
Yeah.
You have like
We're comparing a part to a part, right? So 3 to 4. How many cats to dogs? So part to part. So now we're going into the rate. A rate compares, instead of a part, we're going to say the rate compares a unit to another unit. So an example would be miles per hour. So it's the different measurement units, all right? How many miles can I go in 1 hour? Miles per hour. So now instead of comparing cats to dogs, so that part to a part, now we're going to compare that measurement, that unit, to another unit. It's the same concept, just using a different way of getting the numbers. So this is very similar to a ratio. So when we talk about a rate, it's very similar to that ratio. So it's not something scary and new. We have a background in this. So we're going to write each statement as a rate. Then we're going to write an equivalent rate. How do you think we're going to do an equivalent rate? How did we do an equivalent fraction and an equivalent ratio? Matthew? Divide or multiply by the same number, right? Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. So we're going to write each statement as a rate. You can mow 2 lawns in 3 hours. So you can mow 2 lawns. Put it as that fraction. Think about how the ratio we could put as a fraction. What am I going to put on the bottom? 3 hours. I can do 2 lawns for every 3 hours. So that would be my rate. 2 lawns every 3 hours. So we could say that word per. 2 lawns per 3 hours. So if I have 3 hours of time, I know I can get 2 lawns mowed. How would I do an equivalent rate for that, Aiden? I could do times 2. 2 times 2 would be 4 lawns for every how many hours? 6 hours. So I know if I need to mow 4 lawns, I better set aside 6 hours to get the job done. Okay? How do we feel about doing rates? Yep. So there are 7 days. Let me move that cursor. There are 7 days in 1 week. How do you think I would write that? Jillian?
So the 7 days and then the fraction.
7 days
And then
per
you do
1 week. Now I need to do an equivalent fraction. How could I do an equivalent fraction, Aiden?
times 3.
I can do times 3. 7 days times 3 gives me 21 days. And that gives me how many weeks?
3.
because 3 times 1 is 3. So if there's 7 days per week, I know there are 21 days every 3 weeks. Bennett?
Wait, does it matter what you multiply by?
It's equivalent.
I'm not aware.
So think about equivalent fractions, equivalent ratios. It didn't matter which number we chose to multiply. What mattered is that I did the same thing to my top and the bottom. So if I'm multiplying by 3, I'm multiplying both by 3. I can multiply them both by 5. I can multiply them both by 10. It's still an equivalent rate. Luciana.
Do we have to simplify it?
Remember when we're doing equivalents, we're not simplifying. This is as simple as it gets already. So we're just doing the equivalents. Whenever we're doing equivalent fractions, equivalent ratios, equivalent rates, you're just multiplying or dividing the top and bottom by the same number. Don't worry about simplifying those. One of the rare times I won't say simplify, simplify, simplify. Jillian.
Should we like circle the answer as you usually have us do or not?
It's always a good idea to circle so it's easy to see
Or
it.
like, would we do the 2 logs in 3 hours or the 4 logs?
Well, you have to do both, so they are both answers, so you would circle both. But this is not the whole page. Let's look at what the bottom part says. We talked about the rate and how similar that is to a ratio. Now we need to talk about a unit rate. So a unit rate, it's a special kind of rate. It is a rate with a denominator of 1. So think about that one up above that we did, 7 days in 1 week. That is the unit rate for the days to weeks, because it was 1 week. How are we going to get our unit rate for 100 miles to 2 hours? I want my denominator to be 1. I want it to be 1 hour. What do I have to do to get my denominator to be 1 hour? Jillian. Divided by what?
By 2.
Why am I going to divide it by 2, Jillian?
Because 2 divided by 2 is 1.
Because 2 divided by 2 is 1. How can I figure out how many miles are for 1 hour? James?
Because 100 divided by 2 is 50.
Whatever I did to that denominator, I have to do to my numerator. So I have to say 100 miles divided by 2 gives me 50. That is my unit rate. Now it does say show your work. I can do 2 divided by 2 in my head to get 1 hour. I knew that a half of 100 divided by 2 was 50. This is the work I have to show. What am I dividing by?
2.
So you have to show it, is my point. That's showing your work. Write down what you're dividing out. Sometimes you might have to actually do the math because it's not so easy to do in your head. If we get more complicated ones, then you're going to want to write out the math that you are doing. It is okay to do a little bit of mental math here. I know 2 divided by 2 is 1. I don't have to write that out on the paper. I can just say 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. 100 divided by 2 gives me 50. What if I get to something more complicated? 5 and a half. I might want to write out a little bit more to show my work. Okay, let's look at that one. I want what on the bottom? 1 cup. How do I go from half a cup up to 1 cup? Am I going to divide it down? Taya? Oh, Taya says, what if we multiply by 2? How are you going to multiply by 2? 1/2 times 2. We know that whole number of 2 has a 1 on the bottom. So that's 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. What's 2 over 2? 1. So you are are absolutely correct, Taya. I want to multiply it by 2. That's how we get that 1 whole for the bottom. So whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So how many prunes would be in 1 cup? 10. Because 5 times 2 is 10. So sometimes, if they give you a number that's less than 1, we're not dividing, we're multiplying. So when we have that fraction, we're going to want to multiply up to the 1. If we have a number bigger than 1, we want to divide down. Does that make sense? No matter what, to get a unit rate, you have to have what as your denominator? 1. It's important to remember that the unit rate always has to be 1. I'm not sure why we have these out. This is math class. The next time I see somebody with stuff out that does not pertain to our class, it's going to be a tip. Okay? For anybody involved with it, passing it, looking at it, working on stuff that's not math during math class is not okay. We need to focus. So, most important thing with the unit rate, denominator of 1. We do have a word problem at the bottom. Word problems seem scary at first. Slow it down and think about what you know. Think about what we're working on. Thomas can run 15 laps in 5 minutes. That's a rate. So the first thing I would do is I would change that to look like my rate. 15 laps in 5 minutes. Jan can run 24 laps in 6 minutes. And Carol can run 18 laps in 9 minutes. Okay, all right, so this looks similar to my unit rates that were up here. My question is, who is running the fastest? Well, I have different denominators. When I'm working with fractions and I want to compare fractions, what is the easiest thing to do to compare them, Jillian?
Same denominator.
Yeah, we want common denominator. So we're not going to multiply up to big ones. We're going to say, hey, I can use that unit rate. So if I'm going to use the unit rate, what am I going to put everybody's denominator at? 1. So you're going to figure out, you're going to convert each of these rates down to the unit rate. See how many laps they are running in 1 minute. And then see, ooh, who's running the most laps? They are running the fastest. Okay, so you're going to take your 3 rates and convert them down to the unit rate, just like we did up here. You're going to change it down to the unit rates, then you're going to look to see who ran the most laps in 1 minute. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about equivalent rates or unit rates? Okay, so we have time to work. We have plenty of time to work. Do not race through this. What are we going to do when we are done with the assignments, Aiden? What's due tonight, Aiden? Khan Academy is due tonight. So there's only a few of us that have our Khan Academy all the way done. Most of us have work to do on the Khan Academy. So when you are done with your binder sheet, you are working on Khan Academy. If you are all done with Khan Academy, check to see, do I have any missing Khan Academies? Look on Blackbaud. Look at your missing assignments. Do I have any missing Khan? Get them done. Then you're going to work on packet number 4. Packet number 4 you can turn in and I will check it and help you with it. Remember, we want to get these turned in before Thanksgiving so we can redo and fix up any mistakes. Where can we go for help on our math packet? Jillian,
YouTube channel.
the YouTube channel has a video that I put on, I believe, Tuesday. Yeah, pretty sure it was Tuesday after school I put the video on. So we have a video going through every page of the math packet. Watch the video, it will help you. Okay? Because we want to get our points on this packet. Look back at your previous math packets that have been passed back. What kind of mistakes were you making? How can I fix it up and correct those kind of mistakes with this math packet? So for my friends at home, we hope you are well and we hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.